basic stuff that we always forget. I'm sure you won't. Turn on the green button when you want to speak. All right, so let's call this meeting of the Cheyenne Historic Preservation Board to order here a little after 6 on the 13th of January. And let's start with our roll call. And let's go with Amber.
Here.
Okay, and David.
Here.
Thank you. And Gary.
Here.
Okay, very good. And Dawn. I didn't hear from Dawn. I don't know if anybody did. Okay. Josh.
Here.
Elizabeth.
Here.
Patrick.
Patrick B. Here.
B. Sorry. Yes. Bustos. Okay. Kelly.
Here.
Patrick Van is absent. And John.
Here.
Fantastic. All right. Very good. Let's go ahead and go to our agenda. And did you say, Charles, between 2 and 3? 1 and 2. Okay, well, let's go ahead and go with some introductions. Why don't we just have every member of the board introduce themselves? Maybe if you have an officer position on the board, if you can remember how long you've been serving. And then John, we'll look forward to hearing a little bit about you. Let's start over here with Patrick.
Patrick Bustos. This is the beginning of my 4th year on the board.
Amber Conwell, Vice Chair. I think this is my 5th year or 6th year, Josh. Do we? Okay. Starting 6.
I'm Josh Chrysler. We started at the same time. So we're just starting the 6th year. And I am currently the secretary.
And we're going to pass over you for now, John, so you can be last. Millward Simpson, 6 years.
David Benner, I'm starting my 9th year.
Gary Sims, 12 years.
And I'm Kelly Severe, and I'm a new member to the board as well. Started, I think, in July of last year, but this is the beginning of my first official term, I believe.
And John, we have 2 other members, Don Harold, who's a longtime member, does a lot of our marketing, and he's had a difficult time attending recently for some life circumstances, but he's still on the board. And Patrick Van sent me an email last month, said that he was reappointed to the board. He's pleased about that. We may not see much of him for a while in person anyway, because of the health issues he's dealing with right now. So welcome, John. Tell us. I'm sorry?
Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah. Elizabeth, sorry.
That's okay. Elizabeth Grenier, sorry I couldn't make it. I have a cold today. But I have been on the board for just over, I think, 1.5 years now.
Fantastic. Hope you feel better. And how about our staff? You may or may not have met our staff who's present and our city council representative.
Yep, I'm City Councilman Ken Escobar, Ward 3.
And a liaison from the council to the board. Charles
Bloom, Planning and Development Director. I've been here since 2018.
And Aaron.
Erin Fagan, I'm one of the planners in the office, and I've been working with the board, I think, maybe a year, maybe a little under a year, but I've been with the planning office for 5 years.
Yeah, please come around the corner.
Hi, Morgan Dennis, Planner 1 with Planning and Development.
How long have you been with planning, Morgan?
4 months.
She looks at her watch.
I think like 4 months. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good evening. Name's John Burdick. This is my very first meeting. Great to be here and very nice to meet everyone in the room. It's a pleasure. I'm a recent transplant to City of Cheyenne. I've just been here 5 months, but I hopped right on it and applied for this position. I am a retired history teacher and school administrator, 30 years with my school district teaching U.S. and world history. I've also worked as a history consultant for my school district. Originally from San Diego, but have lived in places like Michigan and Summit County, Colorado, which is by Silverthorne and Breckenridge. Love living in Cheyenne. Many people ask me, what brought you out here? And then I ask them right back, well, what brought you out here? Wide open spaces, clean air, friendly people, plenty of fun things to do. Today I was on an epic road trip, drove to Fort Laramie, toured that whole property, took some great pictures, and then came back to be on time for this meeting. So it's great to meet everybody. I should clarify, it's John Charles, but please call me Chuck. I go by Chuck because my middle name is Charles, but John is the legal name, which I put on my application. So great to be here. Thank you all.
Welcome, Chuck. We're very, very glad to have you. All right, so this is kind of a time of transitions every year, and the second item on the agenda is election of officers. And colleagues, I'm going to announce a personal transition of mine. I'm going to be stepping off this board as of the end of the next month's meeting in February. Life circumstances as a full-time caregiver and shifting priorities have made this something I need to do now. And was probably only going to serve till the end of this year anyway, but I need to do so now. And I think the timing is good with the transition of officers and going into a fresh strategic plan with kind of a new profile on the board. So I'll have a chance to kind of say goodbye to y'all next month, but I've really, really enjoyed serving with all of you. I'm proud of what we've accomplished. I really have enjoyed every minute of my 6 years on this board and the things we've been able to do together. Do have a couple of regrets. We just didn't quite get that demolition by neglect ordinance over the finish line as close as we got. Maybe you'll all try that again sometime, but I think it was worth every bit of the effort that we put in. So it's been a real pleasure serving with you, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay supportive as much as I can of all things historic preservation and be involved in my capacity as a citizen to the greatest extent I can. So thank you all for your continuing service. It's been a pleasure. With that, it's time to elect new officers. And I think what we've kind of been in the habit of doing is kind of a nomination of a slate, or I think that's one of the viable ways we can do this. And I guess I would ask if there is anybody who would like to express their interest in serving in any of these positions, particularly, including the chair, vice chair, and secretary. Is there anyone who's interested in being considered to be elected, to an officer position? Hold that high, Amber.
Chair, and if I may note, right now, historically in the past, the secretary had taken minutes, but we have been doing the minutes for the secretary. So just in case anyone's scared of being the secretary, we still are completing the minutes.
But the city has rendered that a much less burdensome role, which we all have been very grateful for. Is there anyone who is interested in serving as vice chair who is currently not in an officer position, or secretary? Guess I could do secretary. Okay, David. Elizabeth.
I feel like I should wait till after these contracts are completed before stepping up in a larger role.
Okay, that makes sense to me as well. Okay. Is there anyone who, let me put it this way. Is there anyone who absolutely is not or would not be willing to serve in an officer position if you were nominated? Okay, Very good. Well, then, given my situation, I'd like to go ahead and be the person to make a motion for a slate, and we can have a discussion. I would move chair for Amber Conwell. I would move vice chair for Josh Chrysler. And I would move David Benner for secretary. And then I'll call for a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, I think. Get to work now. No, yay. Thank you, Amber, Josh, and David. I couldn't be more happy leaving the board, feeling that this leadership is in great hands. So really appreciate your willingness to step up and serve in an additional capacity on this board. And these, could you remind me, Charles or Aaron, what is the term of these? Do we elect these folks every year, or do they serve longer than that?
It's every year.
Every year. Okay, so you'd stand, and then there is a term limit though for officers, I think. Isn't it two terms? For officers?
Well, it's 3 years for term members to be on the board. It's a 3-year term. But for the chair and vice chair secretary, those are 1-year terms. Then you elect every January for a new slate of officers. But I don't know if there's a limit. He's looking it up real quick to see
Okay.
if.
Yeah, I thought it was, you could be re-elected one time, but
Yeah, I think that's right. But Charles will confirm once he's found it. Okay, great. Let's and thank you again. Let's move on to approval of minutes for the December 9 meeting. Hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at those. Is there a motion?
I had one
You have
comment.
corrections? Okay.
Yeah, under the pump house update section, there was something that mentioned Patrick Van had made an amendment to the resolution regarding demo of the building, but Patrick was absent last meeting, I believe, so I'm not sure who that was supposed to be.
Remember when we were having a long deliberation about what we wanted to see in a proposed substitute resolution? Was that maybe an amendment that you proposed, Patrick?
seconded it.
Or seconded or something?
To get a quote for what the demolition would cost of the pump house, I believe is what it was referring to.
If I remember the conversation correctly, what I was referring to was that we, as a board, had made a previous commitment of 2.5 at the November meeting. At the December meeting, that was increased to 4 million because
Oh,
that's
I
what
remember
Char-
you had questions about that.
Yeah, I had questions about that because that's what Charles was recommending to the council in terms of the dollar amount. So that's what I recall.
Do the minutes reflect that Patrick Van was present?
They reflect that he is absent.
Okay. All right. Does anybody recall having asked that that provision in the substitute proposed language be included?
If I recall correctly, we did not make a motion. We just basically went with a recommendation that the 4 million be the board's position.
Okay,
if
well,
I
maybe a
remember
way to fix that would be, let me find it here. Pump house. Yeah, Kelly, which of the bullets is that in the minutes?
It's the very first bullet point on page 3, where
Okay.
it starts, background was given on the pump house.
Added amount of the revenue to calculate the cost of demolition. Why don't we just strike that sentence? Does that make sense? Or should we consult with the recording of the meeting, maybe? Whatever the recording says, we can amend the minutes that way and go with that.
Chair, yeah, we can go back and listen to the minutes and
Okay.
correct it.
How about that, colleagues? We just say now that we'll approve the minutes pending an amendment based on the recording for the demolition portion. It's a complicated motion to approve the minutes. Does anyone want to make it?
I so move.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there a discussion? Everybody understand what we're voting on? You're just gonna go, Aaron's gonna go back, listen to it and correct it as the recording indicates. All right, very good. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Okay, any conflicts of interest to or ex parte communications to disclose between the last meeting and this one? Okay, I don't see any audience members here. Is there anybody online? Other than Elizabeth? Okay. All right, let's go to a report from our fearless city council representative, Councilman Escobar. Thanks for being here as usual.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last night at our city council meeting, we did the same thing that you just did. We nominated and approved the officers for 2026. So Councilman Tom Seagrave will be the new council president. Pete Laybourne will be our vice president. Dr. Kathy Edmonds will be chair of public service, and I will be chair of finance. Probably the biggest issue we dealt with last night was administrative warrants. There's been 4 or 5 instances across the city with safety violations, and our building inspectors have not been able to get in touch with the owners. The administrative warrant would need to go to a judge under probable cause for that safety violation under affidavit for us to further inspect those dangerous situations. For example, we did have one in our neighborhood, and had it not been for the gentleman that owned this property's dog getting out and biting the neighbor lady, and our compliance showing up upon visiting with the owner, they noticed that he had put a wood burning stove that was vented through the hole in the side of his garage. It was in between his and the neighbor's house. So whenever he was lighting fires in his garage, the cinders were falling upon the neighbor's roof. That's something that we take seriously, especially with things that we've seen across the country with fires spreading in neighborhoods. We've had 2 close calls with grass fires, one out north and one out south, just in the past year. And the dry conditions will continue to exacerbate that possibility. So anyways, we're looking to do some amendments on it. There were 3 no votes. We'll see what the committee and the sponsors do going forward. We had 2 public hearings on transfers of liquor licenses. One was from the Green Door and Scooters, 2 establishments that closed down over here on Lincoln Way. And those went to Aces Range, which is the golf simulator, racetrack simulators. You can shoot guns and rifles simulators over here off 15th Street. And then the other went to Westby Edge, just down the block. We also are moving forward with our resolutions on approving our budgets. Those will both be coming to my finance committee. And I have this one circled. The other committee I serve on board is the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Council, and we work with those HUD funds to fund a lot of low-income projects around town. Habitat for Humanity, for example, My Front Door Needs, Camilla Shelter. We have about half a dozen of those nonprofits that we'll be reviewing here in the coming weeks to fund with the money that we do get. Also, they use some reallocations of funds. I think I talked about this before, but we did approve the annexation of the land that is north of Walmart, Sam's Club out there, between there and Story Boulevard, for the affordable housing units that are going to be going in there, about 180 units. And that's a multifaceted financing program that we're doing with the city, with some funds that were donated to the city by one of the new companies that came into town, Related Digital, one of the new companies that has a data center out south of town. That was a $3.5 million donation to the city to put in that, help us afford this project. So that, along with the CBDG funds and the Wasatch Group that's coming in to help us with that, it's something that ever since I've been on city council, we've been trying to do, is address this affordable housing issue. The reason I mentioned that too, because a lot of people get low income housing and affordable housing mixed up. Well, the advisory council with community development block grant money, that's more your low income housing, whereas this other project is the affordable housing. Let's see, what else do I have here? Tomorrow night we start committee of the whole on our 6 penny projects. The mayor sent us a letter of his recommendations, and mostly these are public safety projects that have to do with our fire department, police department. There is some greenway money that we're going to be talking about. Also, the remodeling of this building. That's about a $22 million ask. As many of you know, we've had to shut this building down 3 or 4 times over the past few years. And then also this week, we have what we do at the beginning of the year after we elect our officers, is have a goal setting session. That'll be Thursday night. And all the members of the council submitted what their ideas are for our goals going forward. I have that list here in each councilman's recommendations if you want to hear that. Is this something you might be interested in? Because there are some
Anything historic preservation related?
Yeah.
Great. Let's hear those first.
Okay. Well, Dr. Aldridge put in to finalize 6 penny ballot and plan to educate the public about that. And of course, we've always talked about the pump house. That one, the members of the council have expressed interest in trying to fund that with other funds. Also, a multifaceted funding through Historic Cheyenne, through the Cultural Trust Fund grants, and through some of our general fund reserve money, and using the pump house for some of our own programs and departments of using that building. Part of the other part of it I can't talk about yet. Let's see. Dr. Kathy Edmonds wants to implement a project management process system that can be easily accessed. We're going more with open government and online. I'm down to finish the goals that we haven't funded in the past, and looked at running pilot project or demonstration project in what we call the Mead Lumber Triangle on the north end of Reed Avenue corridor. We have almost $2 million left. We're trying to leverage that money with the Wyoming Business Council so we can start that project before the 6 penny ballot. That's an ambitious schedule because that's only 8 months. But I think we need to show the public that this is a project that we're dedicated to finishing. And a couple of the other members also mentioned that on here. Councilman Moody wants to improve crosswalk safety and evaluate the reports that we're getting on improvements with our fleet management. Their building there is just too small for a lot of our larger vehicles that now have to go in there. So for example, our new ladder trucks, when they have to go in, just for a tire rotation, they have to move back and forth to get to the lift like 6 times in order to maneuver it into where it needs to be. Dr. Rennie, he wants to keep on top of the projects that I mentioned moving forward, and he mentions the 15th Street project. He wants to discuss implementing the public information strategy so our residents know what we're doing and why we're doing it, and they get the proper information. They're not getting it from the internet or groups that are making stuff up. Councilman Seagrave wants to identify funding streams to support the use of revenue bonds for completion of the listed community recreation events projects. And he wants to do all the projects that they have in their pipeline over the next 3 years, which is another ambitious program, because part of that one includes an indoor turf facility that a lot of us really want to have for the kids here so they could practice all the outdoor sports that in the winter that they participate in the spring and summer. Councilman White, he also talked about both the 15th Street project and Reed Avenue corridor projects. And Councilman Wolf wants to develop a citywide strategic plan to identify who will be responsible for overseeing this effort, and wants to include consideration of moving to another form of government, such as having a city manager, which we discussed about 5 or 6 years ago, right? I guess moving to the end of our agenda. That was about it. That was because I talked about those 2 other things earlier. So if you have any questions about 6 penny, goal setting, any of the other items on the agenda, annexations.
All right. Anybody have any questions for our councilman?
I just had one out of just kind of personal interest on administrative warrants. Is it just solely just on safety issues, or is there going to be like any discussion about health concerns?
It's public safety.
Like it's just safety. Okay.
I think one of the things that when you've talked about demolition by neglect, no, Charles, I think that's something that probably could be used in a severe situation. He's nodding his head yes.
All right, thanks. Other questions? Well, I would say congratulations and the progress on the affordable housing. I've been following that too, and sounds like there's some good things coming, and maybe some hopeful things on the solution to funding the pump house restoration, at least to some degree. So that's exciting and promising too. And
I just got a message from the governor here says your resignation is not accepted.
The governor. Bad chance. Okay.
Unless you're running for his position.
Well, thanks. And thanks for taking on the finance committee leadership position.
Thank you.
I imagine your time in the appropriations committee is going to serve you well. All right, excellent. Let's move to report from Planning and Development Department. Charles.
Chair, members of the board. Really, we don't have too much going on other than the day-to-day activities. We still have a lot of different developments that are proposed. Recently, we've seen a lot of new interest in apartment complexes. We have the one still going in downtown, which is actually taking a lot of shape. So that is 101 units that's located right up here on 19th and O'Neill. That was created with tax increment financing. Tax increment financing is a new tool that we really started to roll out in 2020 here in Cheyenne. It had been used in the past a long time ago, and it had been sort of swept under the rug and hadn't been used in a long time. So we dusted it off and started to use it again. For the first time, we're actually seeing an increment that is being generated from one of our tax increment financing projects. This is basically taxes that were frozen at one point in time. This is the hitching post when the property was essentially worth nothing. That tax distribution that went to all the different tax agencies like schools, city, county, mosquito control districts, any special district that got money, that disbursement was frozen for a period of time. So what the goal is when a new development takes shape, it is assessed, pay taxes, but they're now paying a new level of taxes. And that additional tax increment that is used to pay off the public investment that they made. It reimburses them for that public investment. So we're finally seeing some return on the hitching post, although it's not in accordance with the timeline they initially proposed because they got a little bit of a late start there. It is occurring, and it will very likely catch up and make the lender whole again. So that was the first success in our tax increment financing. The stencil project, which is the multifamily right here, that is continuing to move forward. That is following their timeline. We're expecting to see revenue from that in the near future. The Urban Renewal Authority has directed staff to explore opening up the toolbox for urban renewal to the entire community. So in February, they intend to pass forward a citywide blight designation, which is the first step to open the toolbox. That blight designation will be acted upon by them and then referred to the governing body for discussion, ultimate adoption. Declaring parts of the community blight doesn't automatically open the door for every project to use urban renewal dollars or tax increment financing. What it does is it says you are able to explore that. And if your development truly needs that to stand up to close a financial gap, then you can utilize that. So we're continuing to evaluate how that will look in the community to see where we can utilize that tool in the community. It is a new year, fiscal year 26. We are presently working on continuing to streamline our processes to make sure that we are providing timely reviews of different projects. We are seeing a lot of pressure with large data center developments that seem to have sparked a lot of interest in the community. So it seems like every day we are looking another direction and another one wants to pop into town. So there'll be a lot of discussion that will be coming up on that.
And nuclear power, did we read about that?
Yes, there was a discussion. There was an article that was released late last week regarding a partnership with Meta Group and Terra Energy, I believe, to provide funding. Meta would provide funding for up to 8 nuclear natrium nuclear reactors that would be located in conjunction with some of their sites in the United States. So We haven't heard from them exactly as to what their plans are here, but we would not doubt that they would be interested in this location. Something we continue to work to move forward on is our comprehensive plan update, which will have a historic preservation element as well. It'll help set some of the policies and the goals for historic preservation in the city. Again, we'll be keeping the board involved. One of the other items that we will be working on in that plan update will be data center development standards, evaluating best practices and see where we need to go. One of the big things with data centers right now is we do see a lot of property tax revenue when they are located, because we are collecting property tax on the land value plus the structure value and the fixtures that are within that. So if you have a building that's the same size as a Walmart store, you're looking at about 3 to 4 times that valuation because of the equipment that's in there. The other item that we collect tax dollars on, if they are in the city, is the electricity sales tax. We have a special agreement with franchise tax where we get approximately, it's about 11% of their power bill comes into the city. We're seeing a shift in the data centers where a lot of them are starting to bring their own power, which means they're behind the meter, which means we won't be seeing that revenue. So we need to evaluate what our best practices are for these data centers as they come in, because we want to make sure they still are a community benefit. So lots of different elements we're looking at here in the community, lots of changes we're continuing to try to move forward with, making sure that we are trying to keep the processes easier and more simple, because we want to be able to adapt and shift gears quickly. One thing that is truly unique that was just introduced to the council last week and will be going to committee next Monday is we've proposed to change our accessory dwelling unit regulations. What is an accessory dwelling unit? It basically is when you have a second dwelling unit on your property. Right now, if you are in any zone district where you have a home, you are able to have one accessory dwelling unit, whether it be a second building on your property, a basement apartment, provided you live in that structure. It's one of those is owner occupied. There's a proposal to remove the owner occupied requirement. So it would just allow for any single family home to have a second unit on that lot, whether it be a basement apartment or it be a standalone apartment that would be in the back. These would not have to be owner occupied. These would just be the ability for 2 units. The one caveat is that if you do take advantage of that, you will have to make sure that your building is built to building codes, which means you have to have adequate egress, like egress windows, a separate entrance. You also have to ensure that you have that adequate separation between the 2 units. So that is moving forward to the council right now. In our eyes, it will give us the ability to help aid those property owners who may have bought a somewhat historic home or just a historic by time period home, where they may have had a basement apartment that just happened to show up. And it might not meet the lot sizes or the lot width requirements to allow for that second unit. So this gives them an avenue to at least upgrade that home, bring it up to a better life safety standard, so they can continue to use that as a 2 unit. So we'll see where that goes. That will be at Public Services following the discussion on warrants next week.
David.
Yes.
I noticed there's little red and white signs on the Cole property, south of Story and between Powder House and College or Converse, excuse me.
Chair, through you to Board Member Benner. That's a great observation. Right now, we are completing our last 2 county pocket annexation initiatives. This was a 2022 council goal. The one up north encompasses the Cole property, which is the area bounded by Powder House, Story, Converse, Walmart, Kohl's, all of that. So that area is included in the annexation. The Cole family is supportive of the annexation. Also in that big rectangular area, there is a piece of land owned by the school district and by the city. They have not expressed opposition to that. In fact, I'm pretty sure the city is in support of it. There is another area of land that's also included in that annexation, which is owned by the Edwards family, which is on the west or the east side of Converse near Anderson Elementary School. And that is included in that county pocket annexation. So that whole north area, it kind of leapfrogged and jumped ahead of the others because of other development actions going on and the confusion between multiple jurisdictions. But annexing it brings it in one jurisdiction, which is beneficial for drainage, grading, and also subdividing the land. The final county pocket annexation map and process has been initiated earlier this week. Connor White, a planner 2 in our department, he mailed out the final sets of notice to a handful of properties. It's about 10 to 12 properties located in South Cheyenne, like off of Allison and Walterscheid, a couple of areas over off of Westland Road in that area, and another large piece of land located on Walterscheid near Fox Farm. It's the agricultural use. There's a little urban farm at that location that will represent the last county pocket annexation. So we will have one uninterrupted area of city limits, making emergency response a lot more predictable.
Question, Gary?
Can you update us on the house on 20th Street? You brought it up last month, the one across the street from the governor's mansion.
Chair, members of the board, I don't have any updates on that. I apologize. I need to get updates on it.
Chair, through you, the only thing I have is that he did recently submit a building permit to finish out the interior and some of the exterior of the building. But he said that it is in accordance with what you guys approved previously. But we'll be watching.
Any other questions, Patrick? And then Josh.
Charles, just a real quick, I think more of a comment than a question. If I remember correctly, the use of urban renewal has been really kind of challenging sometimes. And I've seen some wonderful cultural resources lost and some ugly, darn ugly urban renewal projects. And I don't know if there's a role for the preservation of, structures or cultural resources, any of that issue. It scares me sometimes when I hear of urban renewal, and urban renewal in my experience has been, demolish and put ugly stuff up. And my interpretation of ugly, something that's not compatible, something that's, probably not very, well designed and well constructed. And that scares me a little bit, Charles. And it's just a kind of a concern that I have in my experience with not all, but some urban renewal projects.
And then, just added on to that. Did I understand correctly that the Urban Renewal Authority is preparing to declare the entire city blighted? Is that what you said? And that seems like surely there are like guidelines they have to follow to. I'm just very curious about that and what the response to that is going to be.
Chair, through you to the board members making comments. Two things. I'll address board member Bustos's concern first. Urban renewal has given itself a terrible reputation over the years. It really started back in, I think it was late 1940s. It was the Housing Enabling Act is what started urban renewal. And there's some significant changes that were made, I believe, in the 60s, which opened up for more of what you call slum clearance. And that's where it got a huge bad name, where you see communities like Denver, where large blocks of historic buildings were torn down and demolished. Nowadays, urban renewal really has shifted into a tool to help remove the gap for developments. All of our plans that we have put together, they will say what the purpose is for. And the purpose is usually for public facing benefit or public infrastructure. So that means facade, a remediation of contamination. That means installation of water lines, sewer lines, curb, gutter, sidewalk, street furnishing, street tree, stuff like that. Only once have we proposed property acquisition. And then that was stripped out by the urban recommended for removal by the Urban Renewal Authority, and then also recommended for removal by the governing body, and that was for the Hines and the Hole. And that was simply for acquisition and control of the property. And that doesn't mean that a city would just take that property. They would have to go through a condemnation proceeding and then pay an appraisal rate market value for that land. The appetite for condemnation and slum clearance, it is not here right now. I can comfortably say that. Even at the last legislative session, there were some proposed changes to urban renewal, and Representative Charles Scott out of Natrona County, he had proposed an amendment to ensure that urban renewal would not be allowed to be used to acquire any property that had a residential occupant. So there is a statewide temperature on urban renewal and property rights that the government cannot take or acquire property. I think this is very evident with the warrant discussion we've recently had, that it would be tenfold. Regarding the declaration of blight, it really is a technicality. The first step in urban renewal is you need to declare an area blight. There are 9 criteria and a catch-all criteria that range from everything from poor platting, bad connectivity, deteriorating curb, gutter, sidewalk, and street, floodplain, risk of fire, risk of other hazards. There's also one such as financial issues where houses could be underwater, structured buildings could be underwater financially, a whole variety of items. To declare an area blight, you only need to identify one of those findings under state statute. That could be as simple as looking around for the first broken curb and gutter you see in the community. It's everywhere. First pothole. I challenge you to find the first one that's close. What the blight study does is it would identify about 5 to 6 areas of the community where there's some conditions that exist. And the ultimate goal of a renewal is once that first step is done, it then opens a toolbox for one to apply for a plan and project where they can say, I want to take this piece of property, whether it's vacant, whether it's underutilized, and they want to develop it. And just that new investment in the community, that is going to help eliminate the blight that is in an area nearby. So every plan and project that is done is an increase in investment in the community, which is in theory supposed to help mitigate blight that surrounds it. So your plan and project, like the stencil development, that one did demonstrate blight on the actual project site itself, but it didn't need to, because just that investment helps trigger reinvestment in the areas surrounding it, which has a domino effect in eliminating those conditions of blight. So essentially the blight study sounds terrible. It sounds like a bad idea to be declared blight. It just is opening up the toolbox and gives someone permission to try to do an urban renewal project where they still have to go through a whole nother routine to provide a plan for what they want to do. And then they have to go through another exercise, which is to demonstrate if they put all their numbers on the table, their pro forma, all of their numbers, and they have to identify that this project wouldn't happen unless, the urban renewal tax increment financing contribution was made. We'll get you the links to it as it moves forward. But it's not pointing out Josh's house or Patrick's house or my house and saying that's blight.
I can see Josh's wheels turning, trying to process all of this.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
If there are, I guess, some resources you can point us to, that would be great, just to learn more about it. I can tell you that from my experience, tax increment financing could be a really powerful thing for cultural improvements. There are some communities around the country that, for instance, have used the TIF mechanism to create arts districts or turn buildings into our live work spaces for artists and things like that. So it can be a really kind of contemporary way to accomplish cultural goals. I'm really pleased that we have one that we've tried in the city that sounds like it's going to be proving itself out. And I think if it proves that, it can generate the revenue to reimburse for the upfront expense, then it proves that it works. And then maybe the city would be wanting to do more and more of it. So I think that's a really potentially positive development for the city. Any other questions or comments on anything for Charles or the staff? Okay, let me get back to the agenda. And we are on our normal process here, the strategic goals report. Since we have Elizabeth with us, Elizabeth, do you want to, I know we saw here late in the day, a couple of PDF document updates, but you want to go ahead and verbally kind of tell us what's going on with your two projects?
Yeah, so I can give a quick overview of what I've included on there. So for the African American context study, this month really was continuing to look at the Sanborn maps, going back to 1883 all the way to about, I think 1894, of just trying to identify structures that are specifically called out as belonging to the African American community. It seems like language kind of changes after 1894 in those descriptions. And so then I need to shift to looking at city directories and census data and things of that nature to kind of help tell that story a bit more. So that's kind of been that focus. I did also get access to newspapers.com, YOTrack, and Ancestry.com to do a couple of more in-depth research when I start pulling names and things like that too. I also met with Megan from, obviously we know, from the Alliance for Historic Wyoming, and she invited me to write a article for them for Black History Month using this research that I'm developing from this project. So I think that'll be pretty great. So that's kind of where we're at with that project. I'm hoping to get into the city directories, like I said, in the census data. Josh Chrysler, obviously on our board, he sent me some information too that I need to start digging through and taking those names to the archives and seeing what we can find out. So don't know if there's any questions about that project.
Any questions on the African American project? I think it's great that you'll have a chance to put some of these thoughts into an article. I think that'll help you with the nomination.
Oh, absolutely. At first I was kind of scared, and then I was like, no, this will be really good to start pulling it all together into one narrative. So I think it'll be great timing.
Terrific. All right. Hearing no questions, let's hear about the airport terminal.
Okay, so airport terminal, I received a USB drive from Casey Woster from SHPO. She has pulled together a bunch of architectural resources and research and descriptions on the building itself. So she gave me that USB drive for me to go through and start to organize, which I've started to do. I think it's going to be a really great resource for me to start writing the architectural description and get started on that process for the nomination. And then Casey has offered many times to help me fill out the gaps that I may have in that. Sorry, excuse me. And then also Cheryl Bean, who's been working, I know, with Amber and those guys, she sent some original blueprints of the airport that she found in the state archives, which are beautiful. They're really amazing. So I kind of added those to the finals too. And like I said, I think this next month to really start pulling together that architectural narrative and continue getting that pulled together. So I'm feeling pretty good on this one too. We've got a lot of resources that have come up, a lot of supportive people for both of these projects too. So it's great to see.
All right, colleagues, any questions on that project? All right, terrific. You had mentioned in your email just a question about getting your invoices paid.
Yes, I haven't received payment for the invoices that I've sent so far.
Go ahead, Charles.
And Chair, members of the board, I did talk to you about that, Elizabeth. There was a little snafu with the way the grant was entered through the finance department, and during the end of the year, there's been problems with people being able to align due to the burning of vacation that is needed. So it's unfortunate, but we're getting it together. It's my understanding that there is a required match of $15,000 for one of the grants for the airport terminal. And I believe that we need to have that match paid to the city to initiate the payment. And then there was a $3,000 match for the cultural history one. And we need to identify where that match was coming from. I believe it was an in-kind match. So I think that was actually Kathy Tabor Douglas's time with the research. So we need to clarify exactly where that's coming from.
Is there anything the board needs to do or approve to get that match required so we could get her paid?
Not yet. We also did lose our grants coordinator. She resigned and left. So we have a brand new one that just started on, was it last Tuesday? Yeah, last Tuesday. So we have a couple of snafus. We will get that to you, and Elizabeth, I'll touch base with you on how we can get that resolved. Apologies for the delay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, David.
I just want to mention for Chuck's benefit that we were talking about airport terminal number 2, which is the one with the big swooping roof. And because the original airport terminal is between that building and that little post office on the corner there on 8th Avenue. So.
Yeah, it's a neat project, a mid-mod structure with a lot of history. All right, great. Is there any update on oral histories?
I don't have any updates this month over the holidays, except that I'm gonna get back in the swing of things here in the next couple of weeks. I have 2 more interviews for the Green Door oral history project that I plan to complete. One is with one of the partner owners that Charles gave me his name and phone number. Haven't contacted him yet, but I want to talk to him, and then to one other longtime patron and employee. And I think that's those are my next two steps with that.
Great. Have you been using the equipment at the library yet, or?
I've just been using my personal equipment.
Okay,
I found
right.
it easier to do.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to Historic Preservation Month. I would suggest that would be good fodder for your upcoming strategic planning. Yeah, sure. How about education of the public and historic preservation?
Nothing this month. And I don't think there's anything on the marketing committee.
Okay. Also good things to kind of reassess when you get your new plan going. I kept showing off this really awesome ornament and telling people about the $3.99 in the corner which people thought were very, very neat. So let's hear if there's an update on ornaments.
There's a lot more hidden in that ornament than the $3.99, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Ornaments are sold out. My second printing of the Capitol ornament sold out. I've collected all the money except, so if something happens to me, the State Museum still owes us money. I made a commitment to the governor's wife that I'm going to do her ornament next year, separate from the one I do for the city. So if you guys don't have a problem, or I mean, if you have a problem with that, I'm going to do it anyway without your input. And whatever I charge her, I don't know what I'm going to charge her, but it depends on how long it takes me to put it together and what, and then I'll just donate that money back to you guys. I've got an idea for next year's ornament. I still probably, and this is not an exaggeration, at least 3 times a week, get somebody calling me and want ornaments from the past. Of course, I don't have them. And then on a lighter note, there's a lady that lives north of town and she buys about 15 from me. And she meets me at the tractor warehouse in the parking lot. And I hand her a bag of ornaments and she hands me back a bag of cash. And I told her this is kind of looking like a drug deal here. And oh yeah, and she makes cookies for me. She's got the secret recipe from the Brown Palace and every year hands me this. I can't wait to get it, all these cookies. And so I'm in.
Are you sure you want to continue, Gary? Because this is a public meeting.
Well, it goes south from here.
Okay.
And you know, it's really been fun. And I pick up the paper and she died.
Oh.
So yeah, it's one of those things I was always looking forward to and had a bad turn. But her story is she asked for the recipe at the Brown Palace for these cookies and they said, sure. And she gets her bill to check out and they charge her $187 for that recipe. Wow. So she got to them and put it on the internet. And anyway, that's the way it works. So never a dull moment in the ornament business. And I'll continue to work on it for you.
Gary, did we ever, did that lady from the Casper Historic Group call you about ornaments ever?
The only thing they did, and I mean, I hate to say this, they wanted somebody to do it for them.
Okay.
I don't think anybody wanted to do any work, and that's where we left it. I said, I'll advise you, I'll give you all you need, but I'm not going to do it for you. And I never heard back. So that's where we're at with that.
Well, since this is my last meeting as chair, would you please expand on the hidden items in the Christmas ornament?
I don't know if I can remember them all. There's a letter in there. There's a guy standing on top of Devil's Tower. Santa Claus is in there waving at you from some point. You need to spend some time with that.
I need to sit down and stare at the ornament. Okay.
And those of you that don't know, when I started this, the second ornament shows the depot with a snowstorm, and I made one of the snowflakes into the COVID virus.
Right. I remember that.
Then when we went to the fountain, there's a hypodermic needle hidden in there to signify the vaccines, and there's other stuff in there. Then when I did the governor's mansion, the tree is draped in COVID masks, and there's just a lot. There's a lot to it.
Does the first lady know what she's getting into with these hidden items, Gary? Or?
She loves it.
Chuck, this has been, there are a lot of historic preservation boards and we call them CLGs around the state, but very few that have been able to generate their own revenue to spend on historic preservation projects. And Gary's been like a one-man revenue generator machine for several years now with the sale of these ornaments. And he's probably going to, just a warning, he's going to twist your arm to help sell them.
And so you know, about $85,000 I've generated.
Yeah, it's been a serious amount.
Oh, and by the way, we still owe the University of Wyoming $1,752 if you get a bill for that. I had to pay him that, and that was a percentage for putting the little bucking horse on the ornament. So I'm still going to come to you with a bill for that.
Yes, questions for Gary?
Is it the macaroon recipe or the chocolate chip one? Okay. Just Google.
fact, she told me to bring them down here and share them with you guys, but they would have got stale.
I have one more question.
Yes, Charles.
This is for board member Sims. The price point has historically been $25. I think there was discussion that was it supposed to go up to 30 or is it staying at 25?
The discussion we had was we gave a press release and said they'd be $25 and the Depot Museum's charging 35.
Got it.
So actually 25 is kind of a stretch. I was charging that when I was putting pieces on them and gluing in tiles and actually we could have we're doubling our money easy, but people don't seem to balk at 25, but I'm afraid if you went to 30, they wouldn't sell out as fast.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's move on to airport fountain planning. We've had this long-running project with the airport fountain. It's this beautiful terracotta historic fountain. And we suffered a little bit of a blow trying to get towards allocating money that was willed to the Historic Preservation Board from the Gwen Rice estate to use to work on the fountain interpretation and maintenance and signage and beautification and all those things. We had a situation where the restoration work that we had paid to get done on that terracotta fountain to much public celebration was starting to fall apart. And we at first thought that it was due to a detrimental hailstorm that happened here this last season. Turns out it was more complicated than that, but we're back in a situation where we're looking at needing to restore the terracotta on that fountain. So that's the bad news. I guess the promising news is that one of the members of the committee assigned to this, Patrick Van, your colleague, hopefully you'll meet him soon, has gotten a hold of a contractor who may be able to do this work for a much more reasonable amount than the masonry company that had done the original work told us that they would charge. And so that outfit is called, I have it here in my notes, Pacific Coast Conservation, a woman named Lucinda, who's been in touch with Patrick. And so I think where that is now left, since Patrick had to step back from that, is to get a hold of them and get an actual bid for them to do the restoration work on it, which I heard was going to be something around $7,000. And we do have the ability to pay for that.
7?
That's what I thought. I could be out to lunch, guys, or a bit less than that.
Second bid was 65,000.
Was that from the original folks?
Yes.
Yeah, these people are going to come in at much, much less than that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's good news, and they are interested in doing it. I think that's the follow-up, is to get a hold of them, with Patrick not really being able to do a lot of work right now, and ask them to just give us a bid on it. And I can forward that information to all of you in case you don't have it, because I've got the number and the website for Pacific Coast Conservation, who he has met with in person. They actually came here under their own expense to look at it. So that might be a promising way to go there. Anything on the questions on the airport fountain? That's been such a complicated ongoing circumstance. And then we do have, what I think is a really viable bid from a historic interpretation house in Commerce City, who had come up here, very reasonable price, particularly in comparison with the other bid that we got. So I'm hoping at whatever point that is, we feel like we've got a handle on all the moving parts here, that maybe there could be a proposal to go with that bid, get the restoration done, and finally start allocating money out of that Gwen Rice estate towards the fountain. Garrett.
I don't think we should leave here tonight without assigning that to somebody and getting it done. The longer we put things off, the more likely we're not to get it done.
Well, that committee still exists. It's me and Kelly at this point, and Amber. So we can continue to work on that. Yeah, we can get something done before next meeting.
And I think that's something that we could all look at the strategic planning meeting as well. And I might be jumping ahead here, but I think that instead of waiting till March, and I know that I think that's what we did last year was wait till March for that strategic planning. I think we should plan on that in the next few weeks and maybe into February, but a little bit sooner in the year. Because I think when we wait for that strategic planning meeting, it really hurts us for Historic Preservation Month because we can't get anything put together quick enough. So when we get to new business, I think we should discuss when we schedule that.
That sounds good. So let's put that, we'll come back to that under new business. All right. Pump house. Well, guess what, folks? Good news. After a kind of a strange circuitous journey on the 22nd, the city council voted to repeal the previous resolution. And that means repealing every aspect of it, including the part that called for the demolition of the building if it hadn't been sold by a certain time frame. Was that date going to be tomorrow? So I guess to kind of simplify it the way I look at it, and Charles, let me know if this is an appropriate way to think about it. It seems like the city kind of decided to just kind of press the reset button on this whole thing. Just go back to square one and start providing an opportunity for the community to come together and find like collective solutions for this whole thing. So that was kind of my take on it. It was kind of a nice little pre-Christmas present, and it's kind of given the pump house a reprieve and provides for some new opportunities. And the council person that, if I remember correctly, made the proposal was Tom Seagrave, who was the person who brought the resolution that included the demolition provision in the first place. I could be getting things wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but is that kind of a good way you think to think about it? Is we're kind of just, we have a chance to start afresh and try to come up with some solutions together? I think what that means is we should now do that and proactively, because it would be really unfortunate if in a few years it came back and somebody on the council said, we pressed this reset button in December of 2025 and nothing happened and no one sees the opportunity or the new moment. So especially with all the momentum around the pump house tours and the public interaction and everything, I think it's time to be proactive about this one. So I'd encourage you to also consider that as you get into your strategic planning. But that's where we are on the pump house.
A question.
Yeah.
Probably directed to you. Did we know what's in the 55-gallon drums that are stored there?
I asked Pete that, and he told me. I asked him when we were out there on site.
Chair, members of the board, that's the second time I've been asked that question this week. A second time in 2 days. So no, we don't. Paul Bellotti, the project manager, I directed him to talk with Terracon to do sampling. He's going to have them come out to do sampling. They're an environmental agency. So he was supposed to call me and let me know if that connection I gave him did not work, and he has not called me. So I believe it works.
So basically nobody knows what's in them.
I think Councilman Laybourne knows a lot about it, and I apologize, Gary. I can't remember what he said because I did ask him about it. He might be someone to talk to. It's or Charles could or something.
And just to brief all of you, there's probably 55-gallon drums sitting there full of something. And my first initial reaction was, how are you going to sell that property to anybody when you've got that potentially hazardous situation sitting there? So I think probably one of the things we should do is sounds like we're going to find out and get rid of them.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Any other questions, comments on that item? Okay, well, good news to start the new year. Watch list items. We just had a question about the house across from the governor's mansion. Tours of schools closing, Van Tassel, any updates there? certainly things you're at liberty, obviously, to consider afresh as you go into your planning. Okay, so that sounds like we can go ahead and switch gears to that under new business. Amber, would you like to share your thoughts on the strategic planning?
Yeah, I believe that we've done it on a Saturday in the past from, I think 9 to noon is what we've done. So I think we should go ahead and schedule that this evening. If there's something, I don't know if someone wants to propose a date in the next few weeks. I don't know if we want to try and get it done before our February meeting or maybe right after.
For discussion, Amber, I have a variable to throw in there, and that is, do you feel like the planning session would benefit from members of this board having just come back from this?
That's a really good point. Maybe we
because that's
schedule it
not
after.
until what, the 11th and 12th of February.
That's correct.
So
Mhm.
maybe you could plan something between when this is over and when that February board meeting is.
Yeah, no, I
don't know
think
if
that's
that
a really
gives
good
you
point.
time.
Yeah, I think our next board meeting is the 10th, and then the Saving Places Conference is the 11th through the 13th. So maybe February 21st is a Saturday. If that would work, I'd be willing to host at my office.
I'll be out of town that weekend.
What about February 28th?
I should be available.
Elizabeth, do you know if you have a conflict either of those days? Or anybody? So you just put 2 dates out, right? The 21st or the 28th? Is there anybody that has a known conflict other than Kelly for either of those dates? You do, Gary? Okay. So the 28th is maybe a little bit later than you wanted, but it's still before March,
Yeah.
barely. Do you want to go with the 28th?
Anyone else?
I'm good with either date.
I can vouch for Amber's offices as being a really great place for a retreat. It's a very nice office space there. Okay, so let's please let the minutes reflect that the meeting will be held on the 28th.
We have a time.
Not 9 to noon, I think is
Noon,
what we've
okay.
done in the past.
So I would also throw out, just for fodder, we've talked about this already a little bit, but if there's an opportunity for this board to have input on the city's new comprehensive plan, would the 28th be too late for the board to weigh in on what that would look like, Charles? Or
Chair, members of the board, I'll be lucky to have a contract executed by then.
so that's
So it's
something-
not even close to too late.
So that's something that you could have as one of the topics anyway, is to talk about your input on the comprehensive plan. What else was I going to say about that? Yeah, and the obviously the pump house, some of these things that we've been working on this past year, keeping the pump house, or I'm sorry, the airport planning effort going. Anything else you want to talk about or ask the board about on that item, new business item?
I was just gonna mention for maybe Chuck, we send board members to this Colorado preservation meeting every year. And usually we try to get the new board members to go. I don't know if you're available on that date or not. I put my name in as kind of a filler because I was there 2 years ago. So, but if you're available, you can have that spot. I'm not sure how many positions we've got reservations for.
Yeah, and I sent this in an email to Charles, but would it be possible to check with them and see if my reservation could get transferred to Chuck if he wants to go?
What's the date on that again?
So that's the 11th, if I'm correct, it's February 11th, 12th, 13th. Is that right?
Yes.
And I've been to it. I know many of our board members have been to it and staff, and it is a really inspiring, educational, encouraging and stimulating thing to do. I think it'd be a great way to jumpstart your involvement on this board if you've got the time. And the board does cover your expenses for it, the registration expenses.
Yeah, and there's usually transportation down there too, or you can go down on your own if you want to.
This looks like, I don't know, this is for you. I don't know if that's got information about it or not, but you can go to their website and look at the agenda and everything. And typically folks will come back with really great ideas. It really helps the board plan what it wants to work on.
Chair, just
Yeah,
for
Gary.
clarification, are we paying all their expenses?
Yeah, I'm not sure if is it just registration or is it also motel down there?
Historically, it's been all expenses.
Chair, yes, it's all expenses.
Okay, so it's all expenses paid experience for you.
Usually the meal and drinks, it's just a stipend. So they'll give you a
Per
fixed
diem.
amount and you can choose to use it as you will.
A per diem. So no pressure, but please give it some consideration.
Definitely attend.
Okay, great. And yeah, if they can just take my name out of the prepaid one, because I think I came in maybe under the early bird deadline, I don't know, and give that to Chuck, that'd be great.
So, and then would I still be on there then? If he's going under with no words? Okay.
Yes, I believe we had four
Four, yeah.
registered. Yes.
Yeah.
And we had specifically, I thought we had one open for the new board member as well.
Okay. Oh,
Do we have a
okay.
show of hands of who was going to go? We have 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 5. Perfect. So we have
Chuck's covered.
1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect.
So, because you're not going.
That has it right.
Yeah, Gary.
Under new business, and this has nothing to do with historic preservation of Cheyenne, but it has a lot to do with historic preservation. Thursday night at the archaeology meeting at the college, I'm giving a presentation on the Iceman, who is the 5,000-year-old mummy that was discovered in Europe.
Bolzano, right?
Bolzano, Italy.
Bolzano, Italy.
And
yeah.
I'm doing the presentation. I went there last year and spent a week there, and I've probably read and reread everything to know about him, and that changes. But if you want to come out, it's free. I won't go over an hour, believe it or not. And I promise you, you'll leave there knowing more than you did when you left. Thursday night, 7:00, the medical building at the college, LCCC.
It's a really exciting piece of history. I was there 2 years ago and the site was closed and I couldn't go see the Iceman, but I'm glad you did. And I'm glad you're giving a talk. Okay. Any other new business?
I actually had a question.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
I saw in last month's minutes, I wasn't able to ask this earlier when we were talking about the conference, that my name was down to go to the conference. Am I one of the 5 whose hands was raised when we just did that?
Paul had raised their hands. I did, and Amber and Patrick and David. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess if my reservation can be used by Chuck, then you could probably be the 5th.
Chair, I currently have Patrick registered, Patrick Bustos, Kelly, Morgan from our office, Millward, and Amber registered. So we would take yours and give it to somebody else. But
I'm fine sitting out if Chuck wants to go.
we can always add someone. It's just a different registration amount, but that's all. We could still add anyone who wants.
You know what I would say, folks? We've got the money. We're very fortunate that we have the money to send people to something that'll really enhance their capabilities to be a good board member. So I would propose that as many people on this board that want to go, we just cough up the money and so they can go.
It's in Denver.
Great. Yeah, you can put me on the list then. If we aren't restricted, I'd love to go. Thank you for
Do I
that
have consensus on
clarification.
that? Okay. So Kelly, yeah, you're in.
Awesome. And I have a follow-up question on that then.
Yeah,
For the
you bet.
hotel, I know the city handled registrations for the conference. Do we need to make hotel reservations, or are you going to handle that for everybody as well?
Yeah, I don't know if they had a block or something.
Chair, members of the board, we'll make the hotel reservation so we're not chasing down receipts. That always is a pain in the neck. So we'll take care of that. There's a travel lodge with like 3 L's in it, so it'll be great. I'm just kidding. We'll get you at the conference hotel.
Okay, very good. Well, I know you're all going to benefit greatly from it. I had a piece of, I guess, moving to old business. I was going to ask Charles or anybody if we know that there's any update on what the hospital's intending to do with their possible expansion and the impact on the Rainsford district, kind of where that is.
And Chair, members of the board, I'm not sure where I left off after chatting with their COO recently. We went and did a little tour of some of the properties and everything. Their primary focus area is some of the structures that they own that are pretty much to the south west of the property on 22nd Street. Sorry, I'm just counting my blocks right there. They're immediately south of Meridian FCU. So that's where they're actually looking at trying to do some modifications to the structures. By modifications, I mean their desire ultimately would be to remove the structure, ultimate modification, interim use of an area for parking, future use for building expansion. The other properties that they own, which are located on the other side, other areas, they have indicated that they would like to return those to residential use and make them available for purchase. Right now, we've talked to them a little bit. We've mentioned that there are some obstacles. There is likely not Historic Preservation Board support. And there are concerns that we have heard from other members of the community that happen to be elected. So there's a lot of discussion that is still to be had. They are taking the information that we've given them under advisement and determining what their next steps will be.
I think there was talk too about putting the address and saying what the current status of the building was, whether it was contributing or non-contributing, which would help, because if they're non-contributing, then it would be a lot less problem. So,
and Chair, members of the 3 board member Benner, we did have that PowerPoint presentation that was provided to you all that does have that list of which ones were contributing, and also on the Historic Preservation website. We do have those nominations for those 2 districts, Lakeview and Rainsford. Both of those they're online, so you can see what they are. But of the ones that they were interested in demoing or exploring demolition, they all had a level of contribution to the I believe it was the Rainsford Historic District.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment. Is in terms of us, I think we'd really want to know what they're proposing to do that would impact the actual contributing structures to that district. Maybe focus on those. And that's probably something that would be good to talk about during the planning session as well. How you want to kind of bird dog that or influence it or participate in that. All right. Well, that was the only piece of old business I had. Does anybody else have anything else? Patrick?
Just a quick reminder to the board. If we're going to do awards for the Historic Preservation Month, we need to start thinking about that. And Dawn usually handles that. And so I'm not sure if, I'd be interested in picking that up. There's a couple that I'm kind of the potential a business and a property owner lives in the Capital District that I know about, that I could potentially maybe ask them to submit an application. But I don't want to run into that situation where we're struggling at the end to try to get that done. And we should really try to focus that. That's a good event for us to do during Historic Preservation Month. Just a reminder.
Yeah, we put out some kind of announcement in the paper asking people to submit proposals. And the one house we did give it to last year was one of the ones that was received a nomination from the public on. So it'd be nice to do that again, but the board members can also nominate things if they want to.
Yeah, and Chuck, we do 2 awards per year. One is for a residential structure where the owners have been good stewards or have done historic renovation and have protected the history. The other, and that's called the Du Bois Award. The other one is the Leclerc Jones Award, and that one goes to a commercial property that has done good historic preservation work. And we do those 2 every year. They get a plaque. We make a public event out of it usually, and some often there'll be an open house where the public can actually tour the home or the business. So that's been a real good thing, I think, for us to do. And you will have an opportunity when you have the strategic plan to join committees assigned to any of these projects you guys come up with. So that'll be something interesting, I think, for you. Okay, so the award. So Patrick, if Dawn is really going to kind of step to the background, you'd be willing to maybe chair that effort. Okay. And I suggest Amber that maybe as incoming chair, a call to Don at some point pretty soon is probably in order, just to see what his plans are and whether or not he's going to stay. Okay. So is there any other business?
Chair, members
Yes,
of the
Charles.
board, there's one other item. I'll go really quick. I've actually shortened this a lot since most of you all are new. This is a very quick summary. Historic Preservation Board 101.
Training.
Training. We try to hit this every year.
Or hazing, we call it.
I think a couple of you all haven't seen this. I believe Miss Seaver, I know Miss Burdick hasn't seen it, and other of you all may recognize it. Basically, this is the mission statement of the Historic Preservation Board. This comes out of your bylaws or your rules of procedure. I forgot what document you actually call it. We have about 7-8 different boards in our department that we report to, and everyone has a different set of rules. But it's to safeguard the city's historic structures and features, foster civic pride in the past, promote the use of historic districts and landmarks for the education, pleasure, welfare of the people of the city, and to encourage preservation of historic integrity in land use and development planning. You all are appointed by the governing body, and I would like to note that you all are all serving, in your terms. When you are an officer, it is a 1-year term, and you are limited to 3 consecutive terms. So if ever you are in fear of not being able to continue your reign, take a break, and you can come back, and you're limited to 3 consecutive reigns. You're a little different, and you'll find this out than other historic preservation boards when you go to Denver. If you're going, most historic preservation boards, their sole purpose is to be the pass-through for certified local government grants. And their other role is to review modifications to historic preservation or historic structures to determine if their modifications are appropriate. We rarely see that, but when we do, it's a fun time. Your authority is granted in Municipal Code Chapter 2.64 and Chapter 15.5, which is our building code, and it's all under the umbrella of state statutes. 2.64 talks about your appointment. 15.5, a lot of that goes into the parameters regarding the design standards and protections of the historic governor's mansion, as well as demolition of contributing structures, which I'll get into a little bit sooner. This is all pulled out directly from code. We will email you this, so I'm not planning on reading this, but these are all of the powers and duties that you all have. Number 1, you're the pass-through for anything historic preservation. You're really looking to, if we're doing a National Register nomination for National Register District, which, by the way, Southeast Wyoming is home to the first National Register District, which is at F.E. Warren Air Force Base. That's the first district. And then we have
State of the country.
In the state. Yeah, in the state. And we have the most historic districts of any municipality in the state of Wyoming. So we have 3 slides here, and I'm just going to breeze through them because we'll send you to this. We'll send you a copy of this. Again, you all in this duty, you are an advisory group. So ultimately, the governing body would be the one who has to ratify any designation that you all recommend.
So you heard Elizabeth talking about that African American history and the other one. At some point, those would go before the city council and they would approve them as new historic districts in the city.
And a lot of the items that you really do work towards and you do in the community really fall under these last two bullet points, which is really promoting the public interest in preservation and also just getting the word out and recognizing the importance. A lot of this is done with the Leclerc Jones Award, the Du Bois Award, which are annual awards that celebrate historic preservation and adaptive reuse of buildings, and also just the different projects we've done to promote public interest in historic preservation. Again, I thought there was only 3 slides. I guess there's 4. So again, here's other items that we have, which is continuing to promote historic preservation on a community level, which you all are by far one of the most active boards that we have when it comes to being self-starters and really working to promote the mission of historic preservation. And I have to thank Gary for his dedication for the ornaments and a lot of the ideas he's brought to the board when it comes to other things he's seen in other places like plaques and stuff like that. And if anyone has an old vehicle, I think Gary can help you out with that. So you all do have some decision-making authority that has been given to you under city ordinance. A lot of this is bounded by that area in blue, which is right south of the hospital, which is the governor's mansion protective area. In this area, anyone who is modifying a historic structure or building a new structure, they must come to this board for a certificate of appropriateness. Unfortunately, I remember when Josh Chrysler, myself, we had another person who is not here anymore. She relocated. And Lonnie Olson, we went to the preservation conference in Cincinnati, and we were all geared up, ready to come back and start promoting this district that is a design review district, needed approval. We're going to put all the information out there. And then someone on 21st Street had decided to proceed with a mass excavation and partial demolition of a historic structure. So that kind of put a wrinkle in that, and we've still been dealing with that for quite some time. But we have had a couple of properties that have come in front of this board for a certificate of appropriateness. One of those most recently was on Evans Avenue, where they did an addition on the rear of the building. And then there was a vacant lot behind the governor's mansion that had been used for temporary construction activities. That has been presented in some ways to the preservation board for compatible infill development. I'll get a little bit more detail on what compatible development is in just a moment. The other item we have is review of the demolition and moving of any structures that are on our contributing structure list. So if there is a structure that is determined to be contributing to a district, if it is proposed for demolition or relocation, it must be reviewed and approved by this board. If the board does not grant any of these items, a certificate of appropriateness or permission to demolish or move a structure, the Board of Adjustment, which is another board under the Planning and Development Office, would hear the appeal. If that doesn't work for them and there's an appeal made, then it would go to district court. So certificate of appropriateness, these are pretty standard. What you would do is you will review any proposed modifications to a structure that just alter its character and its design. Our design standards are very open and very vague. and this comes from municipal code, really what you're looking at is, will the alteration and modification harmonize with the period of Cheyenne's history from 1890 to 1930? So that is pretty broad because there are a lot of different architectural styles. Here we just have an example of a craftsman home which has stucco. If that were to happen in a historic district, that would or in the governor's mansion protective district, something like that would be reviewed by the preservation board to see if it harmonizes with the architectural period of Cheyenne's history. In addition, there's a provision for new construction that it shall be compatible with the massing, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the surrounding area. This is definitely a unique criteria. It really is an open door for a lot of different stuff, especially when we have a half block that is open for redevelopment that is immediately south of a multi-level parking garage and immediately north of the historic governor's mansion. Again, the Board of Adjustment hears any appeals on decisions regarding certificates of appropriateness, which are oftentimes referred to as COAs. Demolition and moving permit review. We've taken a look at this in a lot of detail recently. And one of the elements with this is this only applies to full demolition or full relocation of a property. We, for a little bit, were rereading it, looked at it under a different lens, and we thought this could be removal or partial demolition of a structure, removal of historic elements, but that is not the case with how it is worded in Title 15 of our code. So right now, this is only full demolition. So in the event that a home is a contributing structure and is modified to remove contributing features, that does not go to the preservation board at this time. There have been examples of folks that have done renovations that may alter the status of a building, but those alterations have not been documented in any recent architectural surveys. One that was noted more recently that occurred was the former Capital City Grill on Capitol and 18th, where that was a building that when the nomination went through, it was not 50 years old and not eligible. And it was noted that if it were to be resurveyed, it likely would have been a significant architectural style contributing to the downtown historic district. Now, even if it were classified, it would not be reviewed by the Historic Preservation Board because it doesn't fall into the criteria of being demolished completely or relocated. So if you're looking possibly for something you'd want to look at for a work plan, that'd be something you could discuss at your upcoming meeting. I do not know what the governing body's temperature would be on that.
You mean on amending the provision?
On amending to include partial or that.
Okay.
It's just it's something that is more common in other jurisdictions. So it could be something worth exploring. When you are considering any of these demolition permits or relocation permits to move a structure, this is a summary of your review criteria. In the event that one of these were to move forward to you, we would provide complete details on what the review criteria is per code. This is just a summary extracted from section 2.6490 of municipal code. There are some special provisions with this. If a structure has been condemned by the building official, the board cannot deny that demo permit. They're obligated to approve that, which then that falls into the demo by neglect conversation that we had in the past. And again, in the governor's mansion protective area, this applies to all structures contributing or not in that district. So if someone wants to remove a shed or an accessory structure or carport or install one, it would also apply to to those items as well. And in the event that it is scheduled for a public hearing, it is required that a quorum show up. If the quorum does not show up, it automatically is approved. Strength provision, it's in the municipal code. So expectations of roles and responsibilities. I like this picture. It represents staff. You know, there's a staff right there. We don't have a dedicated staff member for historic preservation. We're trying to, it has bounced around a lot over the years. We've had many faces that you have seen. I finally drug Erin here to try to be some consistency. She hasn't left yet. Morgan is being groomed into the position. Hopefully she'll be able to take over in the future. But we do work with our grants coordinator to make sure we can get the grants in order. And we do support the preservation board through a variety of efforts, including assisting with travel, those types of items, to facilitating these meetings, and also taking minutes of the meetings for you all. We all know that the board is comprised of 3 officers and the other members. We still have the secretary in there is taking minutes. Sorry, Mr. Benner. No, I'm just kidding. No, we have the secretary in there taking minutes, but that had been the case in the past, but we are providing that service right now. The board is arranged into subcommittees, which there are subcommittees which you will get into discussion at your February 28th meeting. And those folks are encouraged to meet outside the regular meeting, brainstorm, and come up with, you know, direction and action on certain projects and topics. What happens with those subcommittees is they would put a report together. They discuss that at the regular meeting. And if any action is necessary, they would take action at that regular meeting. Subcommittees are always made up of less than a quorum. In this case, we have 11 members on the board, so a subcommittee's maximum amount can be 5 persons. All of the agendas are posted online, generally a week prior to the meeting. We really strive to be a week prior just for best practice. It doesn't always hit that, but usually it does. It's very easy to find cheyennescity.org/HPB for Historic Preservation Board. There's a hack to our website. If you want to get to the Planning Commission, it's PC. The Board of Adjustment, BOA. Urban Renewal Authority, URA. Downtown Development Authority, I think you all can figure that one out. So anyway, we've set that up with little cheats to get you to the agendas and other information on the other divisions and such. Ex parte communications, I always talk about this. This does not really fall in line with a lot of your decisions. This really is or a lot of your actions. This is really in the event that you all have an item that you are going to either have to approve, like a COA, or an item where you're going to make a recommendation to the governing body to ratify. And you as a voting member that's setting a direction for an approval, that you are getting any specific information from another that could influence your vote, you need to try to avoid that. So that's what the ex parte communications is. This isn't prohibiting you from talking about the airport fountain. This isn't prohibiting you from talking about the cultural history survey or any of your other projects, or just gathering ideas. So it's really very limited based on things that you will make a decision on. So Open Meetings Act, this is kind of important. We've had other communities in the state who have really been made an example of problematic open meetings. I will say that I've updated this just a little bit to address some of our concerns we've had, and then kind of remove some of the levels of caution that I used to exercise back in the day. My biggest level of caution was trying to avoid the perception of any type of meeting occurring. And I don't think that's probably the best case for all of the boards. So Wyoming State Statute 164401 sets the standards for what a meeting is and what needs to happen for meetings. I mean, basically, a meeting is one where business is going to be connected or conducted. Keyword business will be conducted, and it has more than a quorum. So that's or a quorum, 6 or more members. This can include email, text conversations, everyone commenting on a Facebook post. It doesn't mean you can't all go like or say heck yeah or hell yeah to supporting the pump house. You can say that, but if you start to have a conversation on that feed, hey, we need to allocate 1,300 of our dollars to this cause, and Millward says, yeah, that's great, and Josh is like, I love it, and all of a sudden Kelly's like, nope. Not that you would say that, but just saying they start having a conversation. That's technically an open meeting. So you want to try to avoid that. So there are some exceptions, and this is new.
Partly, Charles, because those open meetings have to have been advertised.
And the advertisement is technically only 8 hours prior to the meeting under state statute, but still. I put some clarification here. An open meeting is not going to include meetings or gatherings where there's no discussion, no deliberation, or decision making about official business. There's no presentation of information concerning public business. These can be items such as open houses, award presentations, us all going on a tour, us going to the grocery store, those types of items, hanging out at a local brewery or something like that, provided there is no talk on any official business. So don't start talking about, let's make design standards and we should do this, because that'll ultimately be something that's decision. But it could be something like, wow, look at that architecture, that's beautiful. It's a shame that the city let that building fall into disrepair. So those items. Conflict of interest. This is we haven't seen this here yet, but I have seen it in a prior preservation board I was secretary to. I once had a historic preservation commissioner, that we call them commissioners. They said, okay, it's my turn. So they got up and walked from one end of the table and sat on the other one and said, I want to present this case so I can get a COA for modification to my structure. So that was one where they, number one, should have recused them. Well, sorry, I'm going to back up. That is one where they just have a conflict of interest because they should not be representing themselves in that case. They should have a neutral party that is making that presentation, because that puts an inherent conflict in all of the board members, because now they're looking at a peer who is sitting in an applicant role, who could be unduly influencing their decision. Likewise, a conflict of interest would be if Josh lives in the Governor's Mansion Historic District and his buddy lives right next door, and his buddy says, hey, you want to invest in my property? We're going to do some remodeling, and I need to go to the Historic Preservation Board to get a COA for the modifications. And Josh has a financial interest in that project. He should not be voting on it. He should recuse himself from any conversations and discussions on that item.
And also, Charles, am I correct? Declare the conflict.
Yes, and if you do have a conflict, declare the conflict at the beginning. We have a item on the agenda for disclosures. It's something we have on all of our planning and development agendas, just to give the person the ability to declare a conflict, or even have the discussion if they believe a conflict may be there. And then the staff and the other members of the board can say, yes, there appears to be a conflict, or no, there doesn't. So really, conflict is, do you have a competing interest? Do you have monetary gain? Are they a family member? You know, those types of items. Do you have a contract that you're working on and you're voting on that contract? Like, for example, board member DeGreiner chose not to vote on her own contract, which is completely the right way to go. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. That's our phone number. Our planning and development website is easy to find. Think of Panda. It gets you there on the shortcut.
I would only add that thank you, Charles, for doing this every year. Good timing with our new board member. My only editorial comment would be, it's a little bit unusual to have this whole ordinance about one block in a city. That's that Governor's Mansion protective area. And the reason for that was that part of the integrity of the setting we use in historic preservation parlance of that building is because at that point in history, governor's mansions were deliberately built in residential areas because there was a thought that the governor should live among the people that they represent. So consequently, to not have residential structures around the governor's mansion impacts the integrity of the setting and can render the governor's mansion its eligibility on the National Register could put that in question. So I believe, I'm talking for the folks who wrote that ordinance, but that was a major reason that ordinance was created in the first place. Unfortunately, we've, despite the ordinance, seen historic structures, residential structures be moved off of that property. So it's something that Charles is kind of has helped us keep eyes on what they're kind of up to there. The hospital has had a kind of an seemingly endless construction activity going on there with a lot of temporary structures. But anyway, it's an unusual to have that separate ordinance for a board like this. I wanted to give you the context of it. I will quit blathering on and see if anybody else has any business before the board. If not, I'm going to bang the gavel for the last time. We are adjourned, and I'm going to hand it down the line here. Into the capable hands of Amber Conwell. Welcome again. Thank you. Pleasure. You bet.